So we're in this trench overlooking the ocean, Pacific Ocean. So you can see what's going on. This is my place. Since the people in town won't let me sleep under a tree because I'm telling them about their necropedophilia lies and their necrobestiality and their cannibalism, pretty much chased me out of town. But overall, the people are nice. They're just maneuvered by their own egos, you know? And they want to blame like demons or Satan or anything else, which of course doesn't exist. They're still scared of looking into the mirror and saying Bloody Mary 3 times. But what they're really scared of is looking themselves in the eye. But they might see something that is weak, that they dislike. So they apply a front to it, which is a complete lie, and masquerade as if they're strong, but indeed they're weak. I mean, if you truly are afraid of like Satan or Lucifer or whatever, then summon him. Summon Satan right now. Say to him, I'll fight you on your own level. He'll never appear. So basically it's just your ego. And then there's God, of course. And this little test here, you're going to turn in your Scantron pretty soon. Because the integrated circuit is shrinking. And soon, it's going to approach its limit, which is the electron, 1 unit of electricity. Integrated circuit will be 1 unit of electricity wide. There'll be no more hunger, no more thirst, no more pain. God will have your undivided attention. And then you see who the author of this reality is and who the author of eternity is. And when you do see the author of this eternity, perhaps you might see somebody that will remind you of your father, and somebody that will remind you of your mother. And perhaps then you would say, that's Adam and that's Eve. But you would definitely see all the microscopic babies in their souls, because their souls are equal to ours. That's the most difficult thing to understand. That is the most difficult thing to comprehend and accept. That these zygotes are equal to us, right? Because we're so damn pretty and so smart and so strong. Even though there's levels between us and them, can we survive in, let's say, -420 degrees? No, we can't, but they can. So they have certain powers too. Powers that we used to have. But of course, in the fictional realm, the monster is subdued and the hero wins, right? And they live happily ever after. But in non-fiction reality, the monster from time immemorial has gotten stronger. 100 years ago, he didn't have nuclear weapons. Now the monster has an arsenal to destroy humanity many times over. So what we're facing is like a huge problem, man. A disruption in God's established and ordained way of life. For example, I live out here with the seagulls. There's this big seagull, right? It's like the biggest one of them all. And there's like a pecking order. Because I bring food from the dumpster. I live this Hakuna Matata life. And he's the last to eat, even though he's the biggest and the largest. And all these other seagulls are pecking on him, right? So he has to wait. He has to wait until they all leave. And I reserve some food for him exclusively. But why do I do this? Why should I play a hand in what is the natural course of existence? It's because he has a fishing hook attached to his leg, and the reel is like the line or the fishing rod. It's tied up to his leg all the way down to where his feet are. So he has to walk around with this, and every time he walks around, you can see him limping, and it looks like it hurts like hell. And I try to lure him over to extricate him from this pain, but I can't. So what can I do? I can only feed him, because he can't like fight on his own, you know. So everything he does, I imagine, if he goes out to the water, takes a swim, it hurts. If he flies, it hurts. Defending himself, it hurts. Foraging for food, it hurts. Everything hurts. But he's the true king. He's like Simba. But humanity has changed they flipped the script. Where the true master is someone seen as a nobody, worthless. So he's kind of like Megatron after the battle. After the battle with Optimus Prime in the Transformers movie, and Starscream and the rest of them just like toss him out of the ship. But he's the true leader, right? But because he's injured, he's a nobody. So I go around town, I tell people, let the animals go. They hate me for it. They're like, shut up. Shut your face. I tell them moments ago, you're holding this dead animal in your hand. And then you're holding your dick in your hand. This is necrobestiality. I tell them, you're eating animals. And then you're having oral sex. This is necrobestiality. I tell them, you're putting dead animals in your mouths. And you're sending sperm thereafter. And you're kissing each other. This is necrobestiality. I tell them, you fashion things out of dead animals. Lambskin condoms, leather, belts, suede shoes, whatever, right? And you're sending sperm thereafter upon them. This is necrobestiality. Imagine if you and I were in Eden, right? And I had a girlfriend, even a wife, right? Say some long shot idea. I'm married to like Cat Lynn, right? And I'm like, look, James, this is what I'm gonna do. You see that bunny rabbit right there? This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna feed it to her, and then I'm gonna ejaculate into the same mouth of which she has eaten that bunny's leg. Clearly necrobestiality. But humanity is not willing to accept this, right? Because ignorance prevails. Sophomoricness is paramount, and ineptitude is fundamental. Without change, without any due date. But there is a due date. It's called quantum computing. It's coming pretty soon. My prediction, probably 2080. Probably June 30th, 2080. I make that prophecy right now. I'll be 100 by then. You know, people are still depending on like Buddhas and prophets and those types of guys. You know, it's all fake, man. Because if that's the truth, then I'm the 100th Buddha. I'm the final one. And I'm abolishing it, telling everybody to turn to God. But they still don't believe there's an author to this reality. If they only knew. They still believe things that are lashed with ink, you know, like dead earthlings. Some type of a tree turned into paper, lashed with ink. They believe that instead of believing like the laws enshrined in sperm, which has been with us from time immemorial. Sperm would never evolve into anything else. It would never evolve into a sperm whale or a dolphin, or it would never evolve into a tadpole. There's only one function and one command. It's to find the egg. And when it does find the egg, there's a zinc spark. It's called the moment of conception. And in human terms, it's a human zygote, right? And when that person arrives, all the other sperm dies around it, right? So there's a declaration of independence that is emitted and found within the very moment of conception of humanity. But yet, humanity doesn't believe in this law. It doesn't believe what has been established and ordained by Almighty God in this reality, in this story that He's brought us into to test our mettle. No, humanity would never believe that. So what does humanity do? They continue to pour more and more sperm onto the blastocyst, onto the embryo, onto the fetus. And what is their argument? They say, well, there's an amniotic sac. So the amniotic sac belongs to the woman. So they're still sending sperm only to the woman. Or, one of my frenemies in Israel, in the Holy Land, Tel Aviv, which used to be the capital back then, when I used to talk to him, he said this is okay because it's not even the same place. So I don't know what God he worships, but it definitely ain't the God who authored the functions and command of the sperm. So this is an amniotic sac, right? Given. All right, let's say that does belong to the woman. What happens when you dismember the fetus and remove that sac? Well, let's see. There's homosexuality because you're sending sperm onto the boy fetuses, right? Imagine 8-month-old boy fetus. You're going to send sperm onto him? That's pretty gay. Sperm was never meant to be sent on another man. Not in any case whatsoever. Let's say if it's a female, right? If it's a female, then 50 years ago, I'll tell you a story. 50 years ago, there was this girl, her name was Phi, right? She's Vietnamese. And these American GIs, they came to massacre this village. My Lai. And Phi is there. So they take turns raping her, right? And then they gun her down. And then they throw a grenade upon her. And all the sperm that they deposit upon Phi reached her eggs, right, from her dismembered ovaries when they threw a grenade and shot at her and all that. Which, of course, causes, conception of new zygotes. But that was 50 years ago. It ended. But lo and behold, right, 50 years later, fetus here in the United States was still getting sperm sent upon her. The phitusisters, that's what I coined that word. And when they do that and they dismember her, and she has fully developed sexual organs, right? There's a petitioner to the court in England. She's trying to get the right to harvest her dead fetus's eggs, so there she could use the eggs there after in due time when she reaches menopause and she wants to go through the IVF process to bring about new posterity. She wants to harvest her own daughter's eggs. She's trying to get like a writ from the court to do so. You can look it up. You probably find it in a Catholic pro-life news article. But what humanity still doesn't understand is like this law, right, that God established and ordained. It dictates that if you do this, this is not only necropedophilia, but this is incest. Imagine a father sending sperm onto his daughter while she's still in the womb and then dismembering her. Followed by oral sex. In Texas, back in 1996, Coach Brown, Bowie High School, right? This is like a blue ribbon school, conservative state, everything, right? She taught that oral sex is safe sex. It's a viable means of having safe sex. But she never mentioned cannibalism after an abortion, because then the father, or what other man or woman, comes in to eat the remaining substance of this aborted person. They're indeed committing cannibalism. They're not only eating the remainder of the fetus. People forget division too. You take 5 divided by 4, you're going to get a remainder of 1. It just doesn't disappear. You got to put an R there and a 1 thereafter. But they'll never admit to this, right? But not only that, not only is he eating out the remaining substance of the fetus, but he's eating the microscopic babies. And these are zygotes that are still growing, their cells are still dividing, becoming embryos, blastocysts, and whatever, and they're just being eaten. So there's like a form of cannibalism in the world, the human world, right? It's not what God established and ordained naturally, right? Just like the seagull, God established and ordained that biggest one to be the king of the pride, but he's not. He's not, because of human error and human negligence. And it's the saddest thing to see, man. It's the saddest thing to wake up to. It's unfair, and there's nothing I could do about it, right? No way I could get that bird in my hands and perform some kind of surgical maneuver to extricate him from this fetter. He just has to live with it now. But yeah, these are the types of things I talk about in Newport Beach. And they just call the cops on me. And it's like, I basically own the police, right? Like, whatever they say to me, I just start commanding them. But it gets tiring. Like, I don't want to sit around and talk to you for 30 minutes. So I'm just going to leave. It's not like they ever won any victory. It's just like they're so annoying. If I recorded all my interactions with them, you would see. Like, I just put them all down at a certain point because they're so inept. They're just going to follow whatever, these millionaires tell them, whatever, right? So, I live in this cave, or more like this trench. Just pray to God every day, man. Pray to God to save your souls. It's an undue burden, of course, but who are you going to rely on? The prophets? None of those guys are prophets, man. None of them. Not Moses, not Job, not Elisha. None of them. Why? Because if they were prophets, they would first of all tell you God's law and God's command pertaining to the sperm. And they would talk about the animals. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing with the animals, man? And with the babies? Like, calm yourself, It's not like I could fight all of them, at once with my fist. No, can't do that. Can't even change their minds. So you can count on none of these prophets, man. And the one they call Christ, Jesus, look at his story, dude. Look at his story. It's all flawed. I mean, this is the hardest thing to believe, right? Because he has billions of followers. Well, even in Islam, he's the Christ and the Messiah and the chosen one. Son of Mary, they call him. Isa. But he ain't chosen, man. The story's all corrupted. Say, for example, right, if I were to go to Hitler and I would say, hey, man, I know where the Jews are. He'll go and kill them. Would I ever be called wise? Yeah, only to the Nazis, right? Only to the Third Reich, I'll be wise. But yet you have these three wise men, right? They're like, oh, we saw a star in the east, and it proclaims that the chosen one, the Son of God, is going to be born in Bethlehem. And he goes and tells King Herod this. And King Herod is more of a barbarian than even Hitler, right? Because he wants to have complete rule over the Jews, right? So he kills 2-year-olds, 2 and under. I mean, you don't even hear about Hitler doing that. And this is he just kills. He doesn't kill just the Jews. He kills everybody, every child that's 2 and under. So think about how evil this guy is. And I mean, if these 3 guys were wise in the first place, they would know that this guy is a genocidal maniac tyrant, right? Like a true despot. Do they want to extend his anger of despotism into a city? I don't think they would be wise at all, unless they're wise guys, right? Unless they're like mobsters and they're trying to do a hit on posterity. But of course, once it's on paper, lashed with ink, people start believing it. Like, oh, okay, yeah, they're wise. they go along with it, and every year here in the United States, celebrate Christmas, and the story is told over and over again, and people regurgitate it over and over again, and they never apply critical thinking to like solve the issue. So like they're stuck in this loop. And when like a true prophet of God comes along and tells them, they're like, "Shut up, shut up. You think all these generations, your grandfathers and your great great grandfathers and grandmothers, they're all wrong. Same thing they say about Buddhism. You think they're all wrong? Well, let's see. Who did their ancestors worship before Buddha was even born? Before Jesus was even born? Consider that. Like, why not worship God directly? Put all these like mythology in front of God? Like, dude, look at God's law. If you want to look at law, look at his law. Of course, they wouldn't ever, because then they'll say, whoa, wait a minute. Well, Kodachrome is right. Maybe Kodachrome is the true expert. Maybe we should give him the expert badge, you know? He's the one that makes people who earn expert badges. He's the one that creates generals of the army. But surely we won't ever give it to him because they're jealous. They're just jealous of me all over, man. They're jealous of my good looks, jealous of my charm, jealous of my intellect, jealous of my compassion, just jealous of me altogether. It's ridiculous, but it's true. The jealousy for me is like probably the only no limit game that they understand. So this guy, right? I'm going to tell you this story to drive the nail down further. So this guy and his wife, they hear all this screaming and screeching in Bethlehem because the army is there, King Herod's army, killing posterity. And they look upon their progeny, the son, right, who's just born right now. Like he's just born at the very moment of this genocide. And they look down and they see that it's a boy, and they're like, holy shit, what can we do? So the father and mother, they look at each other and they're like, well, we got to save this child, you know, because we love God. We never destroy his image. So in times of desperation, they cut off the kid's balls. Cut off the kid's balls, and he's still covered in blood. And the soldiers arrive in their house, and they knock on the door. So the parents open the door, and they inspect the child, sword in hand, right? Sword in hand. And they see like where his private parts are, and he's all like, he still has like vaginal fluids and all that, right? Because he's just born. And they question the parents, like, wow, how come he's covered with blood, you know, in his genital areas? We can't hardly tell because they're like, it's nighttime, they're holding torches towards where the child is, because the parents are smart. They blew out all the candles and stuff. And the parents are like, we just gave birth to this girl, we're gonna call her Stephanie. But what they really wanted to do before King Herod sent his army, before they got word of this genocide of progeny, was they wanted to call him Stephen, not Stephanie, but Stephen. But now they have to call him Stephanie. They gave him a sex change. And so the soldiers look, right, and they look at where his, like, her genital area is, and they're like, this is girl, his name's Stephanie, then why does she have such a large clitoris? And they laugh it off, and they, you know, take another drink and move on to the next household. So Stefan has to grow up wearing female clothes, you know, because like jealous, envious neighbors who lost their children to the genocide are like, wait, isn't that a boy? Isn't that a boy all the time? And they're like, no, because they'll be charged with treason. They'll be hung or crucified. Like, no, it's a girl. Her name is Stephanie, not Stefan. So Stefan has to grow up wearing female clothes. So he's not only a transgender, he's a transvestite. But Meanwhile, Stefan is always thinking about himself as a man. And he's always looking for like a girlfriend, but like people just reject him because they call him like hermaphrodite, which isn't even like what he is. But you know how people are. They're just ignorant and they just want to like have somebody to peck on for themselves to feel better for their inadequacy, instead of like self-reflecting, instead of looking in the mirror and not just saying Bloody Mary 3 times or summoning any demon or devil to dispel falsity. They can't look in the mirror and look into their own eyes. Not for long. Maybe they can look in a flash, but for them just to sit there and look at themselves in the eye, not gonna happen. They rather make fun of somebody else, right? Take them down a notch and continue their lies. So Stefan has to grow up being bullied and being disenfranchised and ostracized, and just a series of unfortunate events for this guy Stefan, right? So he's like, well, I don't have any friends. Humans are mean to me, so I'm going to be friends with animals. So he starts this like animal sanctuary, right? He works for this like hog breeder, and this hog breeder, like sells these hogs, say like $300 a piece, right? For one hog. And Stefan works and he tries to free every single one of them. But for Stefan, since he wants the hog alive, he's gonna have to buy them at a premium, $500 a piece, because when people sense some type of justice against what they're doing, like, oh, you want to save hogs? Well, I killed them, I butchered them, so I'll just charge you nearly double. Oh, you want to save a cow, right? You're vegan, right? Well, I'll just eat 2 steaks, one from 2 different supermarkets, just to make sure there's 2 different cows. That's just the ego, right? Ain't no devil involved, there are no demons involved, there's just human ego. So Stefan works. He works for like 20 years. And he's able to save 3,000 hogs, right? Here comes these 13 gangsters. They come to the scene. And there's this homeless dude who lives in a cave, kind of like mine. He has seizures. They talk to the dude with the seizure, and then they come over and chase all the pigs that Stefan, 3,000 of them that he saved in his vegan sanctuary. And they continue to chase them and drive them off this cliff, and all 3,000 pigs are dead now. And Stefan's livelihood is gone because he used to sell them as pets. He becomes poor. And he becomes homeless. He becomes hungry. He goes to this church. And yeah, they feed the poor, right? From time to time. Because it's one of their religious tenets. And Stefan, his entire life, he bowed down to God. Now he goes and he sits at the table after getting his meal, right? And it's like a meal of chicharrones, pig skin and other stuff. So now he's got to eat his friends. He's got to bow down his head to eat his friend. And lo and behold, he looks up, right? And he sees like this thief that is crucified. And he's like wearing a thong. And Stefan is expected to bow his head down and eat his friends and to call this guy God. Meanwhile, some other thief that is crucified only like stole like, coins that were worth like 5,000 or whatever, 10,000. But just calculate how much 500 times 3,000 is. That's how much this gang of thieves called Jesus and his apostles stole from Stefan. But is there any justice in the world? No. the guy becomes deity, becomes God. While Stephen, he struggles and talks to God every day, true God, not some antichrist, not some false God. And that's the hardest thing to tell people, that they're worshiping the antichrist, that the voice that came from the sky that said, "This is my son who I'm well pleased, listen to him," that might be the devil himself. And that Jesus is a son of perdition, and he's a thief, never brought to justice for killing the 3,000 friends that Stephen, who people call Stephanie, his entire life, because he has to maintain that identity just to protect his parents' life. So all throughout, like elementary school, middle school, high school, Stephen couldn't proclaim himself as the man, even though he was the biggest and strongest and the smartest, right? Just like this seagull. He can never be the man. He can never be the alpha man because he always has to be a woman as a matter of self-preservation for the family. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about coming this Christmas. So if there were a son of man, right, he'll of course be the son of mom. It'd be like everybody's child. That's me. Because no one could have more love for you than I. And it is commanded that you love me with all your heart and all your soul. Just as you love yourself with all your heart and all your soul, you must love me with all your heart and all your soul to enter heaven. For God to authorize you in His story of eternity, you must love me with all your heart and all your soul. Because in heaven, all the souls, all those microscopic babies, embryothers, phitusisters, I'm the all-time hero. Because me, I know God's full power. I know He's omnipotent. So every time I go there, I ask Him, send me back in time. Just let me save one more soul. So let me bring world peace 1 second faster. So this life here is just another speed run. So whether you wanted to accept me as your prophet or your Christ or the world teacher or the world leader or the Messiah, just know this, that there is a prophecy. It's called the Golden Gate Prophecy in Jerusalem, the city of the great king, of King David. The Mashiach is supposed to walk through the Golden Gate, which is the Eastern Gate, and rule as the leader of the world. And the Muslims, they put up a stone wall. Put up a stone wall in the Eastern Gate so that no one can walk through it. But if I were to go there and ask my fathers to remove those stones, and they do, I wouldn't be the first to walk through it. I let the family walk through it first. Father, mother, children. And once they walk through it, they arrive on the other side, and they won't be throwing fish hooks into the water anymore. And once everybody walks through it, I'll be the last to walk through it. That's why I am. You must understand this now. You must understand it clearly if you want to save your soul. Transmission out.